Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today to talk about all of these different changes that have occurred just in the last few days regarding the coronavirus and how it affects small businesses. I'm Rebecca Lobina. I'm with the Missouri Small Business Development Center, and I really want to thank the St. Joseph Chamber of Commerce for allowing us to do this webinar, for taking the registrations, for getting the word out. Thank you so much for doing that. The Chamber is great. And my office actually is located inside the Chamber of Commerce, but for the last week or so, it's been at home, and it will continue to be at home. Like many of you today, you're probably working from home as well. So I'm going to let you know that if you have any questions about any of the material that I'm covering today, to please send your questions in the chat room, and that way at the end, I have lots of time left at the end of my presentation to answer those questions directly so that everyone can hear the answers. At the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see the little chat icon, looks like the little text icon. So just click on that and write me any questions throughout this presentation, and at the end, I will answer them for you as best I can. Please also keep in mind that because a lot of this information is brand new as of like the Families First Act that just was signed into existence on Wednesday evening, I have been scouring that and looking for all of the facts on it so that I can give you the correct information. But things are changing, and even that act is probably going to change as well or mutate a little bit over the next few weeks. So I am giving you the best information I have at this moment. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over and share my screen with you so we can get started with the official presentation.
They got to get names on the back.
Please be sure to your computer if you haven't done so already. I do hear somebody in the background there.
Sports page, how may I help you?
Sports page, please use. Okay, here we go. So like I said, I'm with the Missouri Small Business Development Center, just to give you a very quick background on what we do, who we are. All of our services that we offer are completely confidential and at no charge to you. The way that we're able to do that is because of our funding. Our funding comes from the SBA, the Small Business Administration, with matching funds from Northwest Missouri State University. And Northwest Missouri State has had a Small Business Development Center for over 20 years. They appreciate the economic development that the SBDC brings to the table and brings to the communities, and with information and resources to share like what we're doing today. So who we are, we work with for-profit businesses that have less than 500 employees, whether they're starting up, they're already in business, or they're looking to buy or sell a business. We can work with all of those folks. And we have a multitude of services that we can offer. Everything from helping you with the feasibility of your business to exporting assistance, tech commercialization if you have IP, specific stuff, things that need patented. We can help you with paperwork, any legal work as well. We are not attorneys, but we can help you with some of the normal legal business aspects of things. And of course, with financing, finding financing, writing business plans, a whole bunch of stuff. And the beauty of our network is that we are nationwide. So I know all of my colleagues across the state of Missouri because I've been in this position for 13 years. So I know what their expertise are, as well as who to reach out to if I don't have the answer that you need, or if I don't have the expertise that you need, someone in my network will. Just a little bit of information. Because of that broad network that we have and all of the resources that we bring to bear, like market research, databases, and things like that, we are able to have quite an impact in the economic development world as it relates to small businesses. So in the last 3 years, my office has had $16 million in capitalization, helped assist 49 new businesses get started, worked with 544 unique clients in the last 3 years. And just this year was rated #1 in state for in the state of Missouri for customer satisfaction as a small business counselor. All right, so let's get to the good stuff here. So first and foremost, preparing for this pandemic. I know a lot of you have already done many things to try to hurry and get things together, but here's 4 things that you need to make sure that you keep in mind at all times as we move forward. So first and foremost, you need to, if you haven't already, you need to prioritize critical operations in your business, including alternative suppliers, figuring out who are your priority customers, figuring out what it is you can still do during this time and what you cannot do, and then go from there as far as your operations go. Number 2, prepare for lengthy school closings and, of course, decreased revenue. So the lengthy school closings here in St. Joe, as well as in Savannah and the surrounding areas, K-12 schools have closed. However, that is not a permanent thing. Most of them are just closed through the beginning of April. We do expect that that probably will get lengthened, and you need to be prepared for that, because that's going to mean employees not being able to come to work for an even longer period of time if they don't have childcare. Number 3, have a communication plan for the government, for health officials and employees. And what I mean by that is to make sure that you are communicating with all of your city and health officials as it relates to the coronavirus, and how are you disseminating that information to your employees. So make sure that you're staying on top of all of the new mandates, and that you have a plan in place on how you're communicating out that information, how you're getting it, and how you're sending it out. And then also, if you don't already have telework or remote work through your company, look at ways that you might be able to do that. Right now, we are using Zoom. Zoom is a free offering for doing video conferencing just like this. And there are all kinds of other ways out there that people can still meet with folks and do their work in ways like this. Now, I understand that's not going to be possible for every single type of business, but for those critical operations, if those people are able to work from home and have telework possibilities, that's something you really need to look into. IT people are getting swamped right now with calls for putting together virtual private networks and things of that nature so that more people can work from home. So reach out to those businesses locally. And I always say hope for the best, but plan for the worst. All right, let's talk about money. So the SBA Disaster Loan, this is something the SBA typically uses when we have a disaster like a tornado or a hurricane or a flood. Then these funds are made available. This time, however, the funds are being made available because of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, it is coming soon to Missouri. It is not already available to businesses in Missouri because the paperwork is still in the works. So the Governor Parsons has done everything he's supposed to do to get the information that he needs, fill out that paperwork, and get it to the SBA. So as soon as it gets approved, then these monies will be made available to you and to all businesses in Missouri. As of yesterday, late yesterday, 18 states had access to these disaster loan funds, and that number grows every day. So it wouldn't surprise me if within the next week you have access to this money. In the meantime, you can go ahead and prepare to get this loan if it's something you think you're going to need. This loan is also used for nonprofits as well as for profit businesses. So that's important to keep in mind. So you nonprofits out there, if you are seeing a big slump in your donations for the year and things like that, where people or other revenue from your programs, if you're seeing a slump, then this SBA disaster loan could be used for you as well. The terms of the loan are 3.75%, and it's for up to 30 years. The SBA decides how long the term will be based upon your very specific information that you provide them. So it'll depend on how much money you're getting, the quality of the borrower, your credit, things like that, and your ability to pay it back, of course. But the fact that they can go up to 30 years means that if you have to take out a larger sum than you would like, you have a long term to pay it back, so it won't be as much of a burden on you going forward. Also keep in mind that this is a direct loan from the SBA and you can apply for it online. Most SBA programs are loan guarantee programs, meaning you still go to a bank or other lender and get your financing, and then the SBA guarantees the note or a portion of the note. And so this, however, is not a guaranteed loan. This is a direct loan from the SBA. No lender, middleman is needed for this particular disaster loan. And what you will need when you do apply is there's an application to fill out. You will need your year-to-date financials. You'll need the SBA's PFS, which is the personal financial statement, completed. And personal financial statement is just everything that you own versus everything that you owe. And you'll also need a schedule of liabilities for your business. And what that is, this is a form you also fill out for the SBA. And the schedule of liabilities shows everything that your business owes, the terms of those loans, how much is still left to pay on those loans versus how much you took out originally, as well as who those loans are with. So that's what a schedule of liabilities is. And then you'll also need your past tax returns. So 2019 if you have them, but definitely 2018 and 2017. The forms for the application, the personal financial statement, the schedule of liabilities, I have those forms and I can send them to you directly, or you can go on the SBA's website and find them as well. Okay, so the criteria. I mentioned earlier, you have to have the ability to pay the debt service, but they're going to base that on your ability to pay before the coronavirus struck. So they're not going to base it on the fact that the downturn that they see in your revenue now. They're going to base it on, hey, last year at this time, how well were you doing? You know, how well were you doing 2 months ago, 1 month ago even, before this coronavirus pandemic hit the US. So they're gonna base that determination on your previous financials. You also do have to have good credit. But since this is a direct loan from the SBA, their idea of good credit is much lower than most of the lending institutions, so that's a good thing for everyone out there. You cannot have any delinquent taxes, no owed back taxes of any kind, income taxes, payroll taxes, sales tax, nothing. And this is used for working capital. So this particular loan, the SBA Disaster Loan, is not for a startup. It's for someone who's a business that's already existing and is going to use this money to get through these tough times ahead of us. So you can use it to pay other loans. You can use it to pay your payroll. You can use it for keeping your doors open and your utilities on and your insurance paid, whatever is needed to operate your business. Also keep in mind that if you have existing loans right now, that you need to go ahead and begin the discussions with your lender if you think that you're not going to be able to pay those loans on time, or maybe only pay a portion of those if you've seen a severe decrease in your revenue stream. So go ahead and have those talks with your bank. If you have an SBA loan, the verbiage that's actually written into all of the SBA loans allows for them to defer payments if you need to. Now you will have to show that there's a need, like financially you'll have to submit paperwork, but if you already have an SBA loan, then you can request a deferment of payments or interest-only payments for up to 6 months. And that'll be up to your lender for how long those payments can be deferred. Okay, so now I wanted to also talk about the Families First Coronavirus Recovery Act. So FFCRA, but I'm only going to talk about the two parts that relate to small businesses. So sick time, it's a big question I was getting yesterday after this was signed Wednesday evening. Paid sick time, yes. Yes, you have to pay sick time if somebody is out due to the coronavirus. It only applies to that. So if you didn't otherwise offer sick time and somebody is sick not related to the COVID-19, then this doesn't apply to you. But it does apply if somebody is out sick and they're taking care of themselves, or they're taking care of a loved one because of the coronavirus, or if they're needing to use sick time to be quarantined at the discretion of a doctor that has told them that they need to stay home. Is there an exemption for small businesses? Not at this time. So there is language written into this act that specifically states that the Secretary of Labor, the United States Secretary of Labor, has the right or the authority to change that, to put in an exemption for small businesses if he believes that it's going to cause undue burden on them to have to pay this sick time. Now, that being said, he hasn't spoke up that he's going to do that yet that I've heard, but the exemption could change in the next few weeks, or it could remain where there is no exemption. So as it stands, there is no exemption for small businesses for the paid sick time. This does not start until April the 2nd. That's when this act goes into effect, and it ends at the end of this year. So there is a sunset clause in it. This is not forevermore. This is just for this year, beginning April 2nd. So as it stands, if somebody has already taken sick time from your business due to COVID-19, you are not required to pay them emergency sick leave related to this. But after April 2nd, you will. And here's how it works. Full-time employees must receive 80 hours of paid sick leave, again, only as it pertains to the COVID-19 virus, but they must receive 80 hours of paid sick leave at their regular pay rate, but they did cap that, so it can't exceed $511 per day, or for those 80 hours, $5,110 total. The part-time employees also receive this benefit for COVID-19 sick time, and that is based upon what their average hours of work are. So if they average 20 hours of work per week, then for 2 weeks, that's 40 hours. So you would have to pay them 40 hours. If they average 10 hours a week and they're out sick due to COVID-19, then you have to pay them for those 2 weeks that average 10 hours each week. So that's 20 hours of pay. But again, there is a cap on the amount that you have to pay. Okay. Another part of this act is referred to as the emergency FMLA. Again, as it relates to small businesses, which is those under 500 employees, this only applies to those individuals who are affected by COVID-19. Is there an exemption for small businesses that have less than 50 employees? So the answer is there can be. So that's why it says yes with a question mark on the screen. The way that the language is written into the act is that you have to apply with the Department of Labor and state your case that this is a burden and is going to cause undue hardship for an employee or multiple employees to take extended leave that's now being required for those under 50 employers. They have not set out what that process would be, or if there's an application to do that, but the language is in there that you can apply to be exempted if you have less than 50 employees and it will cause a hardship on your business. And this, just like the other, begins April the 2nd, ends at the end of this year. And one thing that's very different about it from the traditional FMLA that most of us are used to is that this FMLA applies to any employee who has worked for 30 or more days before they take FMLA. In the past, that's always been 1 year, but with the emergency FMLA, which only applies to individuals affected by COVID-19, it's 30 days. So if they've worked for you for 30 days, then they would qualify for emergency FMLA if they need to go home and take an extended leave because they're sick, they're caring for a family member, or they're having to care for their children because there is no school or no childcare available to them. And the rate of pay they receive would be 2/3 of their regular pay for 10 weeks. So they could, if for some reason they needed to be gone for 10 weeks, you would be required to pay them for the full 10 weeks time. Now, that is capped at $200 a day or $10,000 total per employee if that $200 amount is if they are caring for their children, not their sick children, but their children who just don't have childcare or don't have school. So if they have to stay home to watch their children, then they're not getting their regular pay, 2/3 of the regular pay. They're going instead to receive no more than $200 a day. But if they are, however, staying home because of COVID-19, because of being quarantined by the doctor, or they themselves is sick, or they themselves, or they are actually caring for their family members, then they would receive 2/3 of their regular pay for 10 weeks, up to 10 weeks. There is also language in the emergency FMLA that you do not have to pay them for the first 10 days that they are off work due to COVID-19. Okay, so in order to help small businesses, although it doesn't help them right now, but it will help them in the future, there is a tax credit. So 100% of the payroll that you have to pay in wages for an employee who either took FMLA, emergency FMLA leave due to COVID-19, or that you paid to an employee who took the emergency paid sick time because of COVID-19, for all of those wages, you will receive a 100% payroll tax credit for those. But again, that's a tax credit, so that's something you get in the future, not right now. So here's how we can help. The SBDC, we can assist you with the disaster loan, preparing for it, filling out the paperwork, figuring out if there's a reason you would or wouldn't be eligible for it, that kind of thing. We can help you with all of that. We can help you with answering questions regarding the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. And we also intend to continue to keep you updated as more changes occur. I am putting out daily information regularly throughout the day on Facebook as well as LinkedIn. And I have a video that I put out the end of each day around 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening that has any new updates that are available. Here are some websites that you can go to for resources. stjoemo.info is the Cities of St. Joe website, and they have information about COVID-19 and any mandates that they have issued, as well as any updates on those mandates. health.mo.gov is for the state of Missouri as it relates to COVID-19. Our website is sbdc.missouri.edu, and then the uschamber.com, their website actually is really good for businesses, for resources as far as planning for the future, the things that you should be aware of with your employees, very specific for businesses there. Okay, so that is what I have. I'm going to now take a look at what is in the chat box to see if there are any actual questions that need to be answered. Okay, aren't businesses less than 50 exempt? So they can be exempt from the emergency FMLA if it's going to be a hardship on their businesses. However, for the paid sick leave, right, as it's written right now, there is not an exemption for small businesses. Question, is there a way to verify if they are out due to COVID-19, or are employers to grant anyone who says that they are? So that is, there is no language written into the act that states whether or not you cannot verify that that's what they have. So if they have been exposed and they say they've been exposed, really all you have is their word to go on for that, to trust that they're telling you the truth. They can, of course, go to the doctor. If the doctor says you should be quarantined, then you could request that they have a doctor's note. There are many businesses, larger businesses like Mosaic, that are not requiring a doctor's note in order for their employees to stay home if they believe that they are infected, or someone that they've been in direct contact has been infected. So there's not a way for sure to answer that question, it's really your own policy as to how you want to deal with that. So if they were not tested, so not technically prescribed as having COVID-19, but staying home as a precaution, and I assume that's because they're sick, but not being tested, do they still have to get paid sick leave? Yes, they do, because it's related to COVID-19. If they are sick and they don't know if they have it, but they might have it, and they're staying home as a precaution, then the answer is yes, they do. They are required to receive that emergency paid leave. Question, if the slides would be available later, and the answer is yes. I will send out all of these slides as well as a handout that talks about the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and it has a nice table. The handout has a really good table in it that tells you who it applies to, for how long, how much, those kinds of things. So all of this will be for you to review and look at via email. Also, the Chamber of Commerce is going to post this, I believe, on their website, so you can actually go back and look at this again if you need to, or have other people from your company take a look at it. Okay, looking now at some more questions here. Trying to scroll down. Are employees required to use earned sick days first before going into the COVID-19 rules? No, that's a good question. And the Act specifically states that you cannot require them to utilize their earned sick time first. And it also specifically states that if you do so, you will be fined and penalized. Does the same take their word for it non-policy also apply for FMLA? No, there needs to be some type of documentation of who they are taking care of if it is not themselves. Are all employees guaranteed paid sick time even if that isn't a benefit they were already offered? Mm-hmm. So yes, they are. And that's why it's important for you to reach out to the Secretary of Labor if you think that this is going to be a hardship on your business, because there are some businesses out there who only have 3 or 4 employees and they don't happen to offer sick time right now. So think of it like this: if that person was there and working, you would be paying them anyway. And if they're sick because of something to do with COVID-19 and then they're out of work, if they were working, you'd still be paying them. So you're not necessarily out anything extra, you just don't get the productivity from them being on the job. And you do get the 100% tax credit on your payroll taxes. I'm sorry, on 100% of their wages, but it's a payroll tax credit is how you receive it. What if your business closes? Are businesses required to pay employees? So that's a tricky one. If your business closes, if you're saying that it's actually closed, have you fired the employee? Like, are they terminated? Or is it just because of like a restaurant is shut down? Then then the FMLA kicks in for 2/3 of the pay, because they're not actually sick, so there's not paid sick time. But if they're having to take a leave from the business, like the restaurant's only doing takeout, and so you only need 1/4 of your staff, then those others, because that's due to a mandate from COVID-19, would be eligible for the emergency FMLA, but not the paid sick time. Okay. Question: what are the pros and cons of keeping everyone employed and coming to work, however, no money coming in? So that is exactly what the SBA Disaster Loan is intended for. That allows you to keep your people employed, continue to pay payroll while there's not much money coming in, or maybe no money coming in. So once those funds become available, that is a really good use of those funds. So you would be able to do that with those funds, and then you do have to pay it back, but it is at a low interest rate and can be extended for a lengthy period of time, up to 30 years. The con, of course, is if you are out that money right now, but hopefully the loans will be made available very, very soon. Question about what we think the underwriting and funding timelines will look like for Missouri and Kansas for the SBA disaster loans. How long between application versus funding? Good question. Don't know. What I do know is that traditionally, historically, SBA disaster loans, you are able to receive your money within the first week. You're able to receive, I think it's up to $25,000 right away. And then after that, though, there's additional disbursements that take place, and I don't know the timelines for those, but I will check on that and see if I can find some more information directly from the SBA. And don't quote me on the 25,000 either. It could be as small as 5,000, but I do know that after 5 days, you do get dispersed funds immediately, and then there's a wait time after that for the rest of your funds. But I don't know what that wait time is. A question about whether or not the loans may be forgiven in the future, and what are my thoughts on that? I think I know we are in uncharted waters. Nobody knows for sure how this is all going to play out, for sure, how long it's going to last, for sure. And this is the first time the government's ever had to do something like this. So this is new for businesses, this is new for the community, this is new for the government. So I doubt the loans would be forgiven, just because they don't forgive disaster loans from floods and hurricanes, so I don't think the loans would be forgiven. But your guess is as good as mine. Historically, they have not been forgiven. If an employee has to go from full-time to part-time to care for children, do they still qualify for emergency FMLA? No, because they are still employed and they are not officially taking leave from work. If that changes, or if there's more clarification on that going forward, I will certainly put that out there on my Facebook, as well as on the Chamber's website, and in all of my emails that I send out to my clients. Question about if once staff has cashed in their 80 hours for paid sick time, do they go back to unpaid sick leave? Yes. So if you typically don't have paid sick time and they go past their 80 hours, then they're no longer receiving the emergency sick leave. But if they are still off due to COVID-19, FMLA would kick in, and you'd still have to pay 2/3 of their income, their regular income. Oh, this is a very good question. So does all of this apply to part-time employees too? Yes. There is no stipulation in the emergency FMLA or in the that says it doesn't apply to part-timers, and it specifically states for the paid sick time that even if you are part-time, you are to get paid based upon your average hours of work. What are our options if paying employees for paid sick leave could put us out of business, and at what point do we say we can't do it? Okay, so that's when you would need to make sure that you reach out to the Secretary of Labor's office and find out how you're supposed to ask for these exemptions, because if it's going to put you out of business, then that's not good for the employee any more than it is for you. And so that's beyond a hardship. So I would definitely reach out to them and say, we can't do this, so we need to know for sure that we can get exempted from this, and how do we go about doing that? Because right now that information is not out there, so you would just have to contact them directly. Let me look also one more here. Okay, I don't see any other emails, or I'm sorry, any other texts or chats coming in. So we're going to go ahead and end the recording for now. Thank you all for jumping on here today. Hopefully you got some information. May not have liked all the information you got, but hopefully at least now you have the facts. And again, as more information is known, I will let you know. I will also send out this PowerPoint presentation as well as the handout I mentioned that talks about the leave time and who you have to pay and how much. So thank you all again, and thanks again to the Chamber of Commerce for all of this. And I'm still working at home. That was the last question. I am working from home, but I am doing all of my conferences and one-on-ones just like this. And I'm doing teleconferencing as well as texting, email. So I'm still 100% available. Thank you all.